Throughout the book, we see how secretive and elusive Playtime Co. is to not only their public, but their own employees, forcing them to sign waivers and NDAs before working and not even letting them speak to each other within the workplace. This is all to hide the dark nature of the company's experiments with the Bigger Bodies initiative. Throughout the book's pages, we get several sticky notes revealing the ins and outs of Playtime Co. by an unknown and mysterious character by the name of PW. We see that PW was hired by Playtime Co. due to his background as a biologist, and he is shown to be much more compassionate about his co-workers than the higher-ups and one of the few people with knowledge on the Bigger Bodies initiative. Giving an interesting note seen on PW's calendar about pretending to be sick to get out of doing something, it could be possible that he is the main character of Poppy Playtime, as the original synopsis of the game states that the player was sick and skipped work, hence why they were present for the hour of joy. In the games, we know that orphans housed in play care were brought to the game station to test their mental skills on the games, with the results of the games being reported back to the counselors in play care and used for the Bigger Bodies initiative. This begs the questions of if cross-experimentation and interaction with the other Bigger Bodies other than Catnap and a prototype was done within the factory, with Mommy Momlegs interacting with the prototype Loyal Catnap, or Kissy Missy interacting with Huggy Wuggy. In one of PW's sticky notes, he discusses how serious the company enforces cleanliness within the factory, even doing routine checks on the matter. This is likely due to the constant surgeries and experiments going on within the company, with these needing to be constantly sterile as a whole. During one of the excerpts in the book, we see Playtime Co. list several symptoms of their products, such as vomiting, dizziness, disorientation, and hallucinations. Most of these symptoms could be linked back to the red gas, as 2 of these symptoms would be seen within Chapter 3 itself. We learn about Eddie Ritterman, one of the higher-ups of Playtime Co., with him being the head of research and responsible for the creation of several facilities within the factory. PW himself comments that no one has physically met the man, which might be due to his higher status within the Bigger Bodies initiative, similar to Harley Sawyer. In multiple excerpts in the book, we learn much about the Smiling Krillers television show and its ultimate failure, with the show taking a nosedive after both the Catnap toy controversy and the poor reception of Catnap's character and his actions in the show itself. The company would lose huge profits as a whole, with Jimmy Robb trying to shift blame of the show's failure on someone else, and the show eventually became somewhat lost media. We learned from the book that Playtime Co. was initiating a rule where people wouldn't get a refund if they attempted to dismantle their Poppy doll. This, combined with the secretive nature surrounding her creation from even PW, would link her creation to the early days of the Bigger Bodies initiative and the idea of living toys. We get a brand new incident report for Thomas Clark and his transformation into Brawn, with the report detailing the aftermath of his transformation and his attack at the hands of the other experiments. This attack was seen within the restricted restoration tape, and I previously theorized that this attack was due to the orphan experiments, sensing that Thomas was a Playtime co-worker before becoming a toy. We also learned information on the Grab Pack, with the device being created by Elliot Ludwig in order to help him run the factory due to his old age, with the company eventually rolling them out to employees due to their usefulness. We also learned that the device was used to capture experiments when they got loose, and we see the existence of a yellow hand that allows people to jump around, with this hand either becoming the purple hand in Chapter 3, or being a potential future hand that the player can acquire. We see that Playtime Co. does various tours for the public of their factory during the beginning of Chapter 1, with the company only showing the public what they wanted to see. However, we learned that one tour planned for June 19th of 1992 was cancelled, with the excuse being an emergency staff meeting. In actuality, this was due to Huggy Wuggy's escape from the factory the previous day, with the company cancelling the tour to cover up their tracks of the incident. In the security section of the book, we see that Playtime Co. is constantly looking for new people to join their security detail, specifically their retrieval teams. This is likely due to the large amount of casualties these retrieval teams take while attempting to contain and control escaped Bigger Bodies. We see a report for the day of Huggy Wuggy's escape from the factory, with 5 members of the retrieval team being slaughtered in the containment effort and 6 being unaccounted for as a whole. PW blames the incident on security getting too confident and comfortable with Huggy doing their job for them and not properly watching him. And we see this incident in full during the restricted disappearance tape. During 2 of PW's sticky notes, he states how weird it is that there is a passage that leads directly into Ludwig's office from Poppy's room, as well as how strange it is that Ludwig's office has no windows. This could show Elliot's connection with Poppy, with the man bringing his daughter back within a doll and setting up his office in a way where he can meet and speak with her without people interrupting and catching them in the act. This could also be a catalyst for Elliot's dissatisfaction with the company and possible transformation into the prototype. In the section relating to play care, we see a quite unsettling artwork of a child expressing her fear of Catnap, stating how she doesn't like him and his friends, and how she can see him everywhere. This shows just how traumatized and disturbed the children under Playtime Co. were, and how terrifying Catnap is as a character, both in-universe as well as outside of the game. We see a brand new never-before-seen incident report on Experiment 1186, otherwise known as Bobby Bear Hug. We learned that the bigger body's counterpart to the character wasn't an immediate success upon its creation, with her being unable to stand, react to stimuli, or speak, with her even trying to scream despite the lack of a voice. This shows just how dark and disturbing Playtime Co. and its experiments really got, and the sinister steps that eventually birthed Catnap. But the way this excerpt is written, it sounds like Playtime Co. was attempting to brainwash the orphans under their care into completely submitting to their company and ideologies, with this likely translating into the bigger bodies being much more loyal to the company. A similar idea to how Catnap grew religiously loyal to the prototype. As we know from the events in the game in AR or Joy, this plan wouldn't work in the long run, as most toys would fall under the prototype's influence. We introduced a brand new incident report on Catnap after he first became a bigger bodies, with the experiment getting out and individually hunting down and killing 6 people. This not only shows Catnap's stalking and brutal nature, but also PW's compassion when compared to the rest of the company, with him wanting to remember the people as their friends and urging the company to take stronger safety precautions against future incidents. This could show even further evidence for PW being the main protagonist of the game, as during the beginning of Chapter 1, we learned that the player ultimately returned to the factory due to the note claiming that workers were still trapped within those walls. In the book, we learn that after the Hour of Joy and the ensuing chaos of the incident, the surviving Leaf Pierre gathered up other survivors of the massacre into resource extraction teams in an attempt to continue running the factory like normal, despite the fact that it was now essentially a death trap with the monstrous toys roaming free. This would eventually lead to the events of Project Playtime and likely to further deaths of people within the factory. We get some information about the feeding pits from Project Playtime, with the book explaining that the feeding pits were a section of an abandoned sewer system deep within the factory. Given how it works within Project Playtime, as well as the various quotes scattered throughout the book about the company getting rid of people who've seen too much, with the prime example being Rowan Stoll and his murder at the hands of Boxy Boot, it is likely that the feeding pits were used to dispose of people who discovered too much about the company's dark secrets, with these people being torn apart by the feral mini Huggies, and the company successfully covering up their tracks. Lastly, during an incident report on the dangerous and intelligent prototype, we see PBW express concern about the experiment, saying that Shader should ultimately destroy it. Based on everything the prototype has done and the various containment breaches it has tried or succeeded in pulling off, it's likely that several members of the company agreed with PW's sentiment. However, Dr. Soil would keep the prototype around due to his high intellect, something that would eventually lead to the downfall of the entire company.